I love getting to travel. I love getting to see different places. I mean, uh, and every crowd is a little different, but really, like you just said, when the lights are on, if the crowd is energetic, to me, it's like it doesn't really matter where we are because it's about the music, and the music is about this human connection, this experience that we're all sharing, and that's universally, you know, it's something to me that like it doesn't matter where I am. It's like the same kind of a good feeling, and that's the beautiful thing about music is that it's just so universally connecting for all of us.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast, the podcast taking a behind-the-scenes look at all things music. Cassius Morris here, Joe Pacheco joining me on the line. What's up, Joe?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Yourself?
Feeling good, man. Work over here, and definitely happy to be back with episode 118 of the podcast. Today we have special guests Samantha Fish and Jesse Dayton joining us on the show, talking about their brand new collab project. We'll also be talking about Sum 41, Billie Joel, and much more in the headlines, and the SoundMojo Community Tab. So don't go anywhere, and let's jump right in. 90s rock icons Sum 41 have officially announced their split after 27 years as an active group. Joe, before we jump into this headline, is it crazy to you too that they've been around for 27 years? Because Sum 41, I mean, that's almost hard to compute in my brain.
That's true, man. Like, where did the time go? Because I remember buying an album and like enjoying it and really liking them, and then they sort of didn't hear about them anymore, and then I get this big announcement of a breakup. It's interesting.
It's definitely a big moment for fans of the group who, have had a great tenure and definitely great staying power. We do have the full quote from the band down at the bottom of this article here, which we're going to read from. This was posted on their social media pages, saying, "Being in Sum 41 since 1996 brought us some of the best moments of our lives. We are forever grateful to our fans, both old and new, who have supported us in every way. It is hard to articulate the love and respect we have for all of you, and we wanted you to hear this from us first." And they continued on to announce their split. So, I mean, look, it looks like they're splitting in a good way, Joe. They've announced their final album as well as a final worldwide headlining tour. So it's not like they're leaving their fans in the cold here.
That's it. Yeah, it's fans. You have to. It's a class act, right? Well done. Like, we're giving you an album and another world tour, but they're announcing it like way ahead of time too. Because then, like, can you imagine if you had already for their upcoming tour, you had tickets and you find out, damn, this is the last time, But you still have one more opportunity if they come around your town, right?
Now, how does it feel for you to be seeing a lot of these bands that you've known for a long time splitting up and going away? I mean, what's the feeling been so far?
Well, it's interesting because the two that come to mind, well, besides this one being so fresh, and Daft Punk, right, making that announcement that they were no longer together. I don't know. It's a good question because like there's so many like the Rolling Stones that just won't give up, right? And like they don't need to. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying they just keep powering through. Motley Crue, maybe Vince should, but anyway. But yeah, no, it's a hard decision, man. Like, how do you just decide to stop, right? Like, I don't know if this was like, obviously if they're doing an album and continuing to tour, it's not because they're pissed off at each other or anything like that, right? It's not like a fight because there would not be a tour coming up anyway. So I don't know. To answer your question, sorry, I was a bit, in circles there, but like it's hard because some can hang up the towel and some can't, So it's a very personal decision, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I feel like it's always a good sign when you can have the band hang it up before the fans are asking them to. That's one thing that I think a lot of groups sort of miss the boat on that, Joe. It's like a lot of guys that, they kind of want to do it until it's past its prime. A band like Sum 41, I could see them definitely still having a good number of years in them while it's still, somewhat fresh and while it still works. So, I think that the way that they're doing it is probably the way a lot of bands who are still out now, dare I say, should have potentially done it. Because, I'd rather that than, viral videos about why I should quit or being exposed for using backing tracks. So, but I guess it's a double-edged sword. I mean, we can't really tell a band when to retire either.
No, exactly, right? And like there's no guarantees. We've seen people come and go, and like they could come back, a reunion tour, who knows, in another 10 years, boom, hey, let's do a reunion tour. It seems to be like sort of the formula a bit, of like
residency.
Massive, yeah, exactly, right? Massive success, and then like longevity, and then break up on a high, and then like there will be a demand, I'm assuming. Because like all the kids that grew up, like, I don't know, you were probably young at the time when they started, but I know you know the band. But like all those people, they're going to want to hear it in their 20s and 30s and be like, oh yeah, I'm guilty of it, right? With all the Tears for Fears and all the stuff from the 80s and the 90s, like, I really get into it. So, no, I think it's like you said, like Seinfeld, Seinfeld was the first one for me that like I learned like leave when you're on top. Don't wait till it's like 4 seasons later. Everybody hates you. It's like they've changed cast members or whatever, so yeah, leave on top and just exit out and do it with class is what I mean to say. And like, I think that's what these guys really did.
Billie Joel has taken a stand against selling concert tickets to the rich, stuffy folks sitting up front at all of these concerts, which is, an epidemic, I feel like, Joe. The VIP seats at every show, they cost a fortune, and it seems like no fans can actually afford to buy these seats, so it looks like Billie Joel has come up with a remedy for the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even afford to go to the shows, much less
right?
the VIPs and
nosebleeds are too much for me.
Yeah, so like, but we thought this was really interesting. I was sent this and I said, man, finally, like a top level artist that can, and not that he does, we'll see what he says in the video, but like can demand exorbitant prices for, and people will pay because it's Billy Joel, right? But I don't know, this really touched my heart and I figured let's share it with the audience in case you haven't seen it. And it's like, anyways, he says it way better than I could say it.
It got to a point, this is about 25 years ago, I got tired of looking down. The first row tickets are always scalper tickets. So there are always somebody who paid way too much money to be a big shot and sit in the front row. You see some guy sit in the front row with his bimbo, right?
Bimbo.
And he's got the gold chains, and they just sitting there like, entertain me, piano man. I'm looking down and go, screw this. The real fans are in the back. So we decided.
Even there.
Exactly.
Front row tickets. So we don't put the front rows, the first 2 rows on sale. We hold those tickets. We give them to our road crew. The road crew fans out to the back of the room before the show, and they find kids all the way in the back, and they bring them to the front 2 rows.
That's great.
Amen.
Billy Joel speaking on how he distributes the front row seats to his concerts. Now, definitely, this warms my heart as well, Joe, because, I mean, the typical standard that you hear is that, guys like this will blow up and they'll lose any sort of feeling towards, struggling young people who were fans. We got to remember, guys like Billy Joel were probably washing pots and pans to go see their favorite band at, there was a time when that happened. So, it's nice to see a guy like him not forgetting when he was actually in that position.
I wonder, like, there's got to be a bit of, like they must have control, but limited control in terms of like, because we heard like Dave Rude from Tesla when he mentioned like him too as well went and go see some big artist and was freaking out that his tickets were $300 and he was in the nosebleeds. And so like, yeah, I get the artist wants to make, they got to pay their crew, their hotels, the food. Like, hey, come on, it's expensive for us. It's expensive for them too. But then it's like the promoters come in, let's say, I don't want to say any, if it's Ticketmaster or whoever it is, they come in and they charge these crazy prices. Meanwhile, I always, in the back of my head, I know they have to advertise, they have to promote the show. It doesn't come cheap either. But I mean, it doesn't come to like $1,300. Look, we just spoke about Aerosmith, right? Announcing their tour last week, their farewell tour. Friday, tickets go on sale. I see my Facebook light up with $500, $700. I'm like, wow, dude, how could you even go to these shows, man?
It's insane. Crazy. Yeah, and obviously it costs a lot to tour, and I definitely agree. Like, you shouldn't be spending money to tour. Like, I feel like a big act like this should at least be making a profit, and that's completely fair. I mean, especially after so many years on the road. The only time I get upset is when you're trying to make a profit and then some and then some and then some and remain filthy rich. Like, for me, there has to be some sort of compromise, so again, it's nice to see, the front row tickets, the VIP ticket game is all a very good money-making scheme, so to speak. And it's nice to see, a guy like Billy Joel letting us get a break.
Yeah, once in a while, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I want to be filthy, stinking rich too. But I mean, like, it's like you said, it's great to see him that he didn't forget that. Like, man, the people, even from an artist, right? He doesn't want to see people like this watching his show. He wants to see let's go, man, the energy, so that was funny, like, and I just thought this would be something cool to show the people that, look, hey, man, even at the top of the game, they still care a bit. A bit.
Hopping over to the SoundMojo Community Tab, this is the spot where we post different polls and posts to figure out what our audience is listening to and watching. And here we ask, do you ever buy CDs or records, or do you just stream music? Which I think in this, transitional era of music, Joe, is a really good question.
Well, I mean, it's a basic question, but I'm definitely curious because, like, honestly, I have, like, you can't really see it behind me. Must be a good 800 CDs that I've collected since a kid, and, like, just buying, and even some because I worked at some labels, so you get boxes of CDs and keep the ones you like. But with streaming, it's just convenience for me will always win, right? It's just much easier to have it on a browser, on my phone. I go for a walk, 2 seconds, boom, I'm playing. I don't have to look for a CD, carry something. Anyway, so you know the story. It's definitely interesting to see that, like, people, are still, buying CDs. Like, I think the last time I even commented, I can't even remember the last time I bought a physical CD of an artist when an album came out. It must have been 2000, man, I want to say 7, 8. Right?
For me, it was 2009 because I remember the Kiss Monster CD. They released different packaging for it, and I was collecting at the time, so I collected all the different packaging. But honestly, Joe, I don't even know where I would buy a CD today other than Best Buy.
Yeah, and I haven't been to a Best Buy in ages as well.
Yeah,
It's
like maybe Amazon I could buy a CD, but honestly, like HMV, that doesn't exist anymore, right? So, like, all these CD stores. Thankfully so. You didn't like them?
Oh, man, no, I have
the prices were high.
Well, okay. I normally want to go with this, but I'm going to go in a little bit of a tangent here.
Please, let's go.
When I released an electronica album called Inner Light Spectrum back in 2008-9, around that time, so here I am, an independent artist. Nobody knows me. I get it through a label, gets through distributions before iTunes. Well, iTunes was around because it was obviously before Spotify and stuff. So it gets into the stores. I'm excited. So I go down to the store downtown, big store in HMV, downtown Montreal. Get there, and it's like, okay, I find my album, $22.99.
Wow.
And the best part is like my brother or other people writing me, dude, I want to buy your album, but it's like $23. I'm like, who's gonna buy an unknown independent? Like, so why would they, example, like, it's $9.99 that the label will sell it to the store, $10.
Yeah.
So why is the store making $13 more than everybody else who put the album together? And
that's
actually
a good point.
Money. And all they did was order 5 copies, right? Because you're nobody. Why we're gonna have 5 copies of yours, So, it just sucked. It really sucks, and that's what kind of burned me with HMV. It's like many more times. Yeah, I had friends who had labels and little independent labels. They would go, you spent $20,000 in doing this video, launch day party for the record, advertisements. You show up at the store, it's not even on the shelves. Oh yeah, it's in the box in the back. Well, dude,
oh my gosh,
do your job. So anyways, that's why I said good riddance to HMV. But everybody has their own experiences with it. But
no, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, it's definitely tough to see how things have changed so much in the last, 5-10 years. Tough for the people who enjoy collecting, but also, less tough in a lot of ways due to the convenience. We do have comments here as well from our audience. Let's see what we can glean from these.
Yeah, so Frank Marr wrote, I like CDs because I like to own the physical rather than streaming, but I use both. I was surprised to hear recently that people don't listen to albums anymore. They just listen to popular songs, I guess. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, well, that's very true. I mean, it's really changed the whole way that we consume music, I think, because with a CD, you spend $23 on a CD, you're going to listen to every last song, probably more than once, where now people usually don't even listen to a whole album from somebody on streaming.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's full circle because the industry started with singles. Because that's all that could fit.
That's
on
true.
A 45. You couldn't put half an hour on a vinyl at the time. It just got better and better and better. So that's why. But then the 70s, we 80s, 90s, we all grew up with albums. So I love listening to an album because it's like you get the full picture of where the artist was. I mean, conceptually, if it's a concept album, obviously, but like you just, it's just like a snapshot in time, right? It's not like a greatest hits where it comes, different eras. But yeah, it's sort of, the more things change, the more they stay the same in a way, like it came back to singles, right? Because, the problem was a lot of people complained, and I get it. Like you'd pay $20 for an album, you liked one song or two, the rest was sort of, you didn't like it. So that's a question of taste. But there are a lot of albums where it was filler tracks, just throw in another two or three tracks.
Absolutely.
But arguing with that, like some of my favorite tracks on a lot of albums were the deep cuts that were not necessarily filler, but they weren't the singles, right? So
For sure.
everyone's different, right? So thanks for your comment, Frank Marr.
Shout out Frank.
Simmons. Yeah, Game X Simmons. I buy everything except 8-track tapes. If they still made those, I'd probably buy them too. And I wrote a comment. I actually have an 8-track machine. I don't know if it works because there's only so many hours in a day. I can't do all this stuff, but I have it.
I've definitely owned some 8-tracks before. Again, for my Kiss collecting days.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, for sure.
How's the sound on those compared to like a tape, maybe?
I wouldn't know, to be honest. Like I'd have to listen to it today, but I know, like I grew up. My dad had an 8-track in the car, and it had like I say this story for so many times is Sgt. Pepper's. I don't know, like my dad didn't know any of that stuff, so he just got this radio, and I probably picked up a bunch of that were just laying around. So like I had some random ones, but there was Sgt. Pepper's, and I love that album to this day. It's my favorite Beatles record.
Definitely the best.
Jason Harris. Well, obviously in this day and age, streaming is easiest, but if I really love an album, I'll still buy a physical copy. It's been about 8 years since I bought a CD. I just bought a vinyl last month. There's the cool thing. I find like I never, like when CDs came in and vinyls were on the way out, I jumped at the opportunity to buy all my favorite albums for like $1 and in great condition, Now you go today to a vinyl place, it's ripped, scratched, right? It's already $8, $9, $10. It's just for like something that's been
absolutely
worn.
Because it's aesthetic, like people put it up on the wall now, and they have so many different ways they can do it. So
it's cool. Plus, I kept like my 2 turntables, and I worked in radio, so they were throwing out turntables. And, oh no, this is coming home with me. I'm like, I'm not throwing away turntables.
Seriously, why would you do that?
Especially they were good ones. They were Techniques, so they were good tables. Moving on, Classic Man. I definitely still buy CDs. I download it to my computer library and then save to resell it. Save the CD or resell it. There you go.
Resell it. Wow, I wonder how much you make off that nowadays.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we used to do that. There was a place here in Montreal that was like, when people get rid of their CDs, you go buy them for like $6, $7, $12, depending, right? Because they were $19 back in the day when. And I remember the new Van Halen had just come out. I waited a day. I went to that place, and it was there for $11. I'm like, all right,
wow, nice.
It's brand new. There's not a single scratch on it. Somebody just bought it, ripped it, and then like sold it. Which is technically illegal, but
make a little flip, yeah.
Here, hey, it's been a while. We haven't spoken about
here.
our friend here. I want to own it. I have it in my hands, but obviously I can't buy it all. Of course, that's the age-old problem. If we could have it all, we would, right?
Yeah.
Amy Ducky reads, I stream exclusively so far, but I've got a record player set up, and the plan is to play more instrumental music and hard copy and albums I absolutely love. That's pretty much what it is. I just want to listen to like old jazz records by old Pink Floyds and like stuff. And it's just for the vibe, right? It's just to feel good. That's all it is.
100%.
Melissa Worth. In my childhood, I had CDs and audio tapes, but I used my MP3 library on my phone and YouTube. Jan Zedwick Santos. I collect music, album, CD. Smoke and Shadows. Cool name. I stream, but use Prime Music since it's higher royalty rate than Spotify. Yeah,
that's cool.
Probably not much, but yeah, higher is higher, right?
Yeah.
That something squashes the sound, so I need CDs. Yeah. That's a thing. And I did a lot of recording over the years and stuff. It's like I just find like I never like when I pop in an album or like on my earbuds, I'm going for a walk or wherever it may be. I never stop to think, I wish this could have sounded better. It's not something that comes naturally to me like, oh, I wish I had my CD. It's just like, no, this is where I am. This is the format. And it's, anyways.
Sounds fine, right?
Yeah, it sounds okay. You know what I mean? Like, because like you think about it, right? Like $4,000 microphones with these crazy dollar amps and like $30,000 speakers. Then you go to mastering, which is even higher. And what? People pop it in here and listen to it on the little speakers on their phone,
or their iPhone speaker right on the,
well,
built
that's
in.
it. Yeah, but you know what, dude? Like, I listen to stuff and I'm like, I could still tell that a mix sounds fantastic on this because of the balance and it translates. Obviously, it's missing low end. It's not like, the beefiest bass or any bass, but you could still tell the picture of the song. It's not going to like, oh, I don't even recognize the song anymore.
Nobody ever hears it the way the musician hears it, like thinks they're going to hear it, It's like,
or probably,
we think people are going to tell that the mix is off or this or that.
Yeah, and I remember watching interviews with some guitar players, and like the guy's talking to them. He's telling, oh, when you do this, you mix a little, and the guy's like, dude, you overthink it. I'm just playing. You know what I mean? So it's like it's funny. Some people will go even more into detail. Randall Green. Let's see. While I always have enjoyed listening vinyl with friends and family, and had them set up, I have sadly never owned a record player. I used to collect CDs religiously. About 10 years ago, when my financial situation was very strained. Yeah, of course. It's like last thing you're gonna do is like. I remember like it was no issue for me to drop $100 on like 4 or 5 CDs, right? And like a subscription to Spotify is about that, right? $120 a year.
A year.
Every album or almost every album song you can think of. So it's like, again, convenience will definitely trump there. Plus, if think about it, if I have 800 CDs here, if I have to move, I have to carry all that stuff and, put it in boxes and move it to somewhere else. So it's like, man, everything is on YouTube or you don't have to carry nothing, right?
It's insane. It's actually wild to think about.
Yeah, I know. Oscar Balza, I still buy and stream when cooking. A lot of people do that, right? Like streaming
Sounds
when
like
you're cooking,
it, yeah.
Like when I'm cooking or whatever, I wouldn't call it cooking, but like I'm watching cop watch videos on TikTok.
Yeah.
So like people listen to music, it's fine, right?
I feel like people probably have like a stereo set up in their kitchen. Maybe that's why they use that.
Yeah, but like today, just stream it to a Bluetooth speaker, right? It's so simple. Like it's something like I always have in my earbuds when I'm mowing the lawn or washing my car or doing errands. I love it. Just listening to a podcast, listening to music. It's like instead of just doing nothing, right? Or hearing nothing.
Exactly.
And I'm not disturbing anybody because it's in my ears, so even better. Flips, vinyl sounds better, but I stream. We're all slaves to the stream.
I mean, I wish they had a more convenient way. If there was a portable way to listen to vinyl, I would do it.
I know, but
it just makes no sense.
We're already, if you want, like maybe there should be a feature in, like eventually when, the bit rate can go up in a couple of years when data is cheaper and all that stuff. So you will eventually probably get better quality. And there should be a button on the apps like add vinyl noise. So then you'll feel like you listen to a vinyl,
That would be awesome, actually.
It's like you just listen to any album and then you just mix in 20% of just
some crackling,
noise
just the
crackle,
ambiance.
You never know. Hey, that may be $1 million idea that they're going to steal from me.
If you stole Joe's idea, let us know down below in the comments. Hopping over to our Versus segment, of course, these are polls we put up on the SoundMojo Community Tab to see who's going to battle it out for the top spot as artists. Here we ask Public Enemy versus Beastie Boys.
Our audience picked 76% for Beastie Boys and 24% for Public Enemy.
A lot of love for the Beastie Boys. Now, I wonder why this is.
Well, I don't know. I just think our audience is like, it's not a huge sample size like, as like maybe Watch Mojo would get and stuff. But I was surprised. I was figuring this was going to be either down the middle or a Public Enemy all day long kind of vibe, but like this surprises me big time.
Would it be fair to say that Beastie Boys have more radio hits? Because I feel like Public Enemy, equally legendary, if not more, but not as commercial.
Good point. I think you hit the nail on the head in the sense that, like, definitely, man, Sabotage, all those videos, all the earlier stuff of License to Ill, definitely radio friendly and still playing, which, now that I think about it, I haven't heard a Public Enemy song on the radio in ever. Forever now.
Definitely. Flavor Flav definitely being, more popular. Even Chuck D on his own, more so maybe than the group. Hopping over to some of the comments we got on this post, the group Sensation of Music says Beastie Boys be going crazy. They'll crush them in a rap battle for sure. Game X Simmons says, come on now. How is Beastie Boys beating Public Enemy like that? Like by 1,000,000,000%.
So damn close we have from Robin Stevenson. No Sorry from John Wilmerding. And then I have IVI 13 Love Both PE Night of Public Enemy Night of the Living Bassheads. I mean, look, this is splitting hairs at this point in terms of like, it's just we're picking favorites here. But I'm just more familiar with the Beastie Boys. I listened to those albums so many times. And it's been a bit, actually, now that I see the name, I'm like, damn, I'm itching to listen to some Beastie Boys again. I don't know. It's definitely very interesting. Definitely not the result I was expecting.
Yeah, Beastie Boys definitely all the way for me. They have a lot of really cool tracks, and that cadence is just so memorable.
Did you ever get to see them live? Or any of these guys?
Never got to see any of these guys live, no.
Yeah, same here. And like, I don't know. Obviously, we're never gonna get to see Beastie Boys because like the guy passed away. But like, definitely something I wish I would have done.
Let us know who you pick and if you've seen them live down below in the comments. Now it's time to hop into our interview portion of today's program. It's a pleasure to be joined by Samantha Fish and Jesse Dayton talking about their brand new project, Death Wish Blues. You guys can go check it out on May 19th. It's going to be available everywhere, and we have all the links to connect. And we have all the links to connect with Samantha and Jesse down below in the description. Definitely a good chat, Joe, and cool to see two different types of music in the forms of sort of country and blues blending together.
Yeah, and like we spoke in the interview, like for me, it's obviously country is very different from blues, but there's that middle ground that they struck on this that like I call it dirty blues, and like what I mean by that, it's because it's like a little more distorted, like a little bit rawer sounding. The guitars are tuned lower so that it's like just sounds heavier. So that's why I call it dirty blues, kind of like what you would consider like stoner rock and rock, like just dirtier, more raw, and more like stripped down, you know, like, and that's what I love about it. As soon as we got that vibe, those beats, I'm like, oh, this is so cool, you know?
Definitely an awesome collab, and also some great tips for the music business for our up and coming independent artists out there in the audience. So get your notepads out, like I always say, and stay tuned and enjoy this brand new interview with Samantha Fish and Jesse Dayton.
And the trumpet started rambling. He got the riders by his side. And from coast to coast, from town to town, up and down we go. You know it's a hard dollar, darling, but I just can't let it go.
Jesse Dayton and Samantha Fish, welcome to the Innersleeve Music Podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, 100%. We appreciate you taking the time. So what's going on today? I see you guys are both in remote locations. Has this been a theme throughout the collab, or let us know about that?
No, I mean, we've spent a lot of time like together in person. I mean, when we were writing the album, it was a little more remote because we both were touring nonstop. But, you know, we made the record last summer and we started doing shows. So we're usually together, but I saw him, yesterday or 2 days ago, something like that. Yeah. But we're back home, kind of. We're still like working, but it's we're gearing up for the summer tour.
So, you know, how important is that connection when you're producing, you know, collaborations like this? Is it very important to be sort of within an hour's distance in the same city, or is it something that you think could have been done just as easily like this through Zoom?
I mean, you know, we've done it all ways that you can do it. We've done it together in the room. We've done it over on the phone. We've sent each other voice messages with melodies, and we've sent lyric ideas by text, and we Zoom, and we're both, you know, Samantha's crazy busy, and you know, I'm busy too, and so we've just kind of worked around our schedule, and it's kind of, you know, the most important part of it is that we can both be vulnerable with each other about new ideas for songs and melodies, and we run it up the flagpole and see if we love it or not, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So it's in terms of who's coming up with most of these tracks originally. I mean, is it a situation where, again, you're both coming up with titles and lyrics together, or is it a situation where, you know, Samantha will bring you something, Jesse, and vice versa, and then you guys will work on it that way?
I mean, we really volleyed ideas back and forth quite a bit. I mean, there were a couple songs that we wrote on our own and then brought into, you know, like a fully formed, complete idea. But a lot of what we did was, you know, I don't know, have like a little melody with a hook idea, and then Jesse would expound upon it and then send it back to me, and then go, oh, what about this? You know, that's what collaboration really is, you know, and it happened, you know, both ways, multiple times. Like we just shot ideas back and forth for months and months and months, and, you know, took the best ones and made great songs out of them.
Yeah.
100%. So, you know, country meets blues. Talk to us about that. You know, that's an interesting intersection in the world of music. Is it easier than it sounds, harder than it sounds? How exactly does that marriage intertwine?
Well, I mean, the music that we both like is pretty similar in terms of, you know, I mean, really at the end of the day, these are just genre terms so people can know what they're listening to in a way for people to sell it. But I've never thought that Hank Williams was that different from Muddy Waters. And I grew up on Texas-Louisiana border, rich music culture, and I just never, when I was a kid, you had to play all that stuff. Yeah. And Samantha's the same way. I mean, we do this Towns Van Zandt song together, and Samantha sings lead on it, and she sings, great. She sings country music. It sounds great.
Yeah, I think they're so similar. They're very close. I mean, probably just some instrumentation differences, but I mean, I don't know. I don't see blues and country that like wide apart, separated.
No, and we came in knowing that we wanted to do something that was a little different for both of us. We came into this project fully aware that we wanted to create something that stood alone, stood apart from our solo work, and so that having that kind of a vision for it made whatever genre lines a lot easier to it really wasn't a concern or a worry. I didn't feel that way when we were in the studio. Jesse and I are both musicians with very similar tastes, and we sound different. We have different voices on our instruments, and obviously our voices are very different, but I wasn't worried about how would this blend, because we knew we wanted to do something different.
Yeah, I think like you said, genres are probably the more a guide and fans and a way to sell things. So I don't think artists really think that much about genres when you're working, right?
No.
And to be fair, it's not like you started music yesterday, either of you. So you're well seasoned. You know what you're doing, and so obviously that's going to make it easier to collaborate. So yeah, it's interesting to hear about that. So how exactly did this collaboration come about in the beginning? Can you remember the inception of who dreamt up this idea?
Well, Jesse, you want me to take this one? So Jesse and I have known each other for a little over a decade. He used to come through Kansas City, where I grew up, when I was a teenager, and I was just kind of getting out to music clubs. And he was an artist that would come through a couple times a year, and it was always an exciting event when Jesse would come to town. The bar I'm talking about is Knuckleheads, and yeah, Jesse's return would be celebrated and is exciting. And I'd catch his shows, and so we kind of knew of each other from that period, and I kept up with him through social media over the years. And last year, when he came through New Orleans, my new hometown, I went out with my manager to see him, and we had been discussing a couple years prior to that, this collaborative idea, just something that's been floating around in the ether in my camp, and it something with this specific style and aesthetic and a collaborative duet kind of a record. And when we saw Jesse, it was like, hey, if he wants to do it, he's the guy. It just kind of like a light bulb moment, and that's how it started. And then we just started working and writing songs.
Yeah,
awesome.
What can you tell us about Knuckleheads, Jesse? Is that quite a spot for you? It sounds like you're like the Norm from Cheers at that bar.
No, it was a tour stop. It's a national touring place, and all a lot of my favorite acts in American roots music play there. And I was backstage at Knuckleheads, and my bass player walks in. I was like, hey dude, who's playing guitar down there? So it was cool. I actually heard Sam before I saw Sam.
Nice. Which
is a great kind of testament to the human, it wasn't about guys and girls and what I mean, that whole thing. So, so I was digging it, I knew something was going to happen, but hey, you never know, man. You could be playing a gig in New Orleans, and somebody might come in and go, oh, let's make a record together. And then a year later, you're in Paris doing press.
Yeah. It's insane how it seems to evolve. Speaking of different locations of touring, do you guys have any, individually, any favorite spots to go tour? Or is it a situation where you're on stage, there's the lights in your face, and each room sort of feels rather similar in each city?
I mean, there's different cultures and customs. We just finished an overseas tour. We did Germany and Denmark, Scandinavia, and then we went to Italy, and we're going to go back here and at the end of the month. So, I mean, there's always that kind of a cool factor with cultural differences. You know, I love getting to travel. I love getting to see different places. I mean, and every crowd is a little different, but really, like you just said, when the lights are on, if the crowd is energetic, to me, it's like, it doesn't really matter where we are, because it's about the music, and the music is about this human connection, this experience that we're all sharing. And that's universally, you know, it's something to me that, like, it doesn't matter where I am. It's like the same kind of a good feeling. And that's the beautiful thing about music, is that it's just so universally connecting for all of us. So, you know, as long as the crowd is into it, I could be anywhere. So
it's all over with the hands on her hips. Watch you burn, watch you crave, not change it to your grave.
So in terms of the overseas tour, I mean, was the touring experience rather similar or the same, you know, towards how it was pre-pandemic? Because we've heard a lot of people saying that there's been differences in touring in general. I'd be curious on your commentary on that, as people who've been touring for many years.
I mean, you know, it felt like we were back 100%. It felt
Nice.
it felt like post, you know, everyone, the shows are all packed, and people, you know, there wasn't, you know, you'd see probably a few people at the merch booth who had masks on, but, you know, very respectful, everyone. You know, there's no telling what they have. They might have some kind of immune deficiency, or maybe they're just have a cold and they're being like thoughtful human beings,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
which is a good thing to do too, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I felt like totally cool. And, you know, I don't know. I think about the pandemic, about what we all went through, because we got the rug, you know, pulled out of our proverbial universe. I mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
and I think that in a weird way, the pandemic kind of psychologically prepared me to just be open to something new. And that's, you know, when Sam came calling, I was like, okay, maybe this is the, you know, because I've done a lot of things, and this just feels so fresh and so fun. And every time we're on stage, it's just a blast.
So what's like, you know, you guys have now been in the studio together and live as well. What's the vibe like?
I mean, it's really, the show is really exciting. You know, as far as sharing the stage and everything, like, our show moves really fast and it's really energetic. And I feel the audience, you know, I feel them getting into it and moving with us. The vibe in the studio, we had John Spencer produce the record. And I don't know, it was like, that was so early on. I think Jesse and I we kind of came in like, you know, nobody was overtly like, this has got to be exactly this way. We were both really open to what could happen, the possibility, you know, letting the magic into the studio. And I think that, you know, working with John, he was a really good kind of balance between Jesse and I to kind of help us find the path forward to the record that we were looking to make. But I don't know, like, Jesse, what do you think? I think that when we first met and we were in the studio, it was like, we were still in the very polite phase too. We were like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, you know, but we both had the same goal in mind, you know?
Yeah, it was definitely the honeymoon, and we were kind of just checking each other out. But, you know, we were also very focused, and we still are. And that's what we both share. And in fact, I would say Sam's even more focused than me, which is,
I don't know about that.
it's kind of crazy, but, you know, we'll wait. And that's not just a throw out compliment, but it's just like, we would literally wake up in the morning and go get coffee and write a song, and then go in and record it later that day. And most of the recording sessions I've done, like, there's just tons of pre-production. We knew exactly what we were going to do. Everything was planned out. This was almost like we were writing in the studio as we went, even though we had a game plan and a map and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
it all felt super organic. And I'm learning. I'm still learning, which is amazing. You know, everyone thinks because I got all these records under my belt and people I've played with, but I would dare say I'm learning as much or more than Sam is. So that's exciting,
That's the mark of a true artist. You just never stop, right? It just keeps going.
Yeah.
I was curious, as like, for you, Jesse, like example, like, we all have our sort of, tried and true methods of working. So is this something that you said, man, I should have done this a long time ago?
Well, I don't know if I would have been ready to do this a long time ago, because where I'm at in my life right now, I'm just a lot easier place, and I think Sam is too. And, she's basically just, sharing everything with me and all this stuff. And so it's inspiring. It makes you want to, like, we talk about the show like we're like a couple of old show business people, you know what I mean? We talk about the show. Last night, we need to tweak this. We need to do this. We need to do this. We're always, always working on everything. So it's really a cool situation. Plus, I just don't know about any acts out there where there's a guy and a girl who can melt your face with guitars and sing at the same time. Like, show me one and I'm into it,
Yeah, that's 100%. I think that's really cool. In terms of the expectations for this collaboration, since it felt so natural and so, just like a walk in the park type of thing, did you expect it to lead into a tour? And I mean, are you expecting it to maybe lead into more collabs? Or was this something that at first, when you first started making it, you thought was maybe just a one-off type thing?
I think when you're starting a new relationship and you're making something different, you're we both went in not really knowing what exactly was going to happen and from the start of this. But, once you put one foot in front of the other, okay, I'm going to go make a record. So let's write some songs. Okay, now we know we're going to go tour it. And the record's not even out yet, but we're getting, I feel like people are responding positively to it. So then that kind of leads us to like, maybe we should do it again, but we're open. I'm open to it. But, it's still one of those things you got to kind of see where the world takes you. And, you can't plan. I don't have like a 5-year plan. We don't really plan out that far. We have to plan out some of it, but, you got to be open to things happening and changing. But I've loved working with Jesse. I loved this whole process with John and making the album. I think we did something really special. So if we feel like we can capture that lightning again, I wouldn't be surprised if we did part 2.
Awesome. I love to hear it. Well, listen, we encourage everybody to check out the record that's going to be coming out on May 19th, Death Wish Blues album. Samantha Fish and Jesse Dayton, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And the trucker started rambling. He got the pride by his side. And from coast to coast, from town to town, up and down we roll. It's a hard dollar, darling, but I just can't let it go.
Huge shout out to Samantha Fish and Jesse Dayton for joining us on episode number 118 of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. I'll definitely be listening, Joe. I'm excited for this project. Definitely by the way they've described it. A lot of excitement in the air. Yeah,
May 19th. Check it out. The album will come out. I mean, already Death Wish and Riders just sounds really good. So the rest is very promising.
100%. And of course, make sure to go connect with all of our guests down below. We have their links in the description. And thank you for tuning into this brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. We're here every single week on SoundMojo and Mojo TV. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/SoundMojo, and hit that little notification bell right next to the button to get unlimited updates on everything we're doing. Also follow us on social media at SoundMojo. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Come drop us a line and we'll definitely respond and interact with you guys on all of these platforms. Thanks so much for tuning into this brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.